Part 1. She stepped over the suitcase like it wasn't even hers. So, who's Micah? That's all I said. Nothing else. Just that one question. Rowena blinked twice and scratched her wrist. She always did that when her mouth wanted to lie before her brain caught up. Her suitcase wheels squeaked across the hardwood as she walked past me like it was any other Sunday night, not the end of something. She saw the envelope on the hallway table. She saw the suitcase I'd packed for her. She didn't flinch. She stepped over the suitcase like it wasn't even hers. Micah who? She asked, pulling her sunglasses off slowly, trying to act confused, but I could see the calculation in her eyes. Panic doesn't scream. It studies. It rehearses. I didn't answer. I just walked over to the speaker in the corner and pressed play. And suddenly the air filled with voices she didn't expect me to hear. Hers. Slurred. Giggling. No. But seriously, if he found out, Julian would cry. Like, ugly cry. He thinks I'm in a cabin with his sister, and I'm literally grinding on a dude named Micah in a hot tub. I'm so bad, right? A shriek. Another voice yelling, "You're a whole villain," followed by more laughter. Then her voice again. Honestly, if he found out now, he'd probably still marry me. That's the worst part. He's so safe. I paused the audio. We stood in silence. She didn't say anything. I watched her hands. They went limp at her sides. Her face was frozen, like her soul stepped out of her body and left her standing there. This was from night 1. I asked calmly. She finally spoke. Julian, I was drunk. So was the guy in the video. Micah, you remember him now? She dropped her purse. The envelope was still sitting there, unopened. Inside were photos, messages, a timeline, screenshots, receipts, and one plane ticket. A one-way ticket. For her. She stared at me, and I waited for the apology. The breakdown. The remorse. Something. Instead, she laughed. You went through my messages? And that was it. That was the exact moment I knew I wasn't looking at someone who made a mistake. I was looking at someone who made a choice. It started with a vibrating phone at 3:08 a.m. I wasn't even awake for it. Not really. I just reached out of habit, like you do when a nightmare pulls you halfway out of sleep. I assumed it was an Amber Alert or another school email about cafeteria allergies. Instead, it was an Instagram message request from a name I didn't recognize, Noah Vance. That name meant nothing to me. But the message preview, it showed a video thumbnail. Blurry. Pink lights. A group of people in a hot tub. Laughter. Steam. Skin. At first, I thought it was spam. But I opened it. The first 10 seconds were nothing. Just chaotic, drunk shouting. Girls toasting plastic cups. Someone doing the worm by a fire pit. Then, my fiancée, Rowena, wearing a sash that said bride to be, standing on the edge of the hot tub with a bottle of something in one hand and a guy's face in the other. She kissed him. Like she meant it. Like she missed it. Like I'd never existed. The guy, taller, scruffy, arm tattoos, smirked like a man who knew he was being filmed and didn't care, pulled her into the water with him. And that's when I paused the video. I didn't need to see more. But I did. Because curiosity is a sickness. And I was infected. The video was over 2 minutes long. She kissed him again. Straddled him. Whispered something in his ear while one of her friends screamed, "Rowena, you're bad," through uncontrollable laughter. I sat in bed, phone still in my hand, chest hollowed out. I felt like I was falling through the mattress, through the floor, into something cold and endless. I didn't even cry. Not yet. I just watched the bubbles rise in the video and wondered how long this had been going on. Then I read the message. I debated whether to send this. I was at the bachelorette party this weekend. I'm friends with someone in the bridal group. I think you deserve to know. No hate, just honesty. Sorry. Noah Vance wasn't even part of the main group. Turns out, he was dating one of the bridesmaids. He recognized me from Rowena's posts. He thought what he saw was disrespectful. His word, not mine. And just like that, a total stranger gave me the key to everything. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the video until I memorized the angles. I zoomed in on the guy's tattoos. I looked up the Airbnb from the Instagram stories Rowena had posted earlier that weekend. Cross-referenced the backyard lights in the video with Zillow photos of the rental. Found it. There was no denying it. It wasn't fake. It wasn't old footage. It wasn't a prank. It was Saturday night. While I was home watching Great British Bake Off reruns and making a Spotify playlist for our wedding. She was doing that. The next day, I acted normal. I texted her the usual "how's it going?" and miss you nonsense. She responded like nothing was wrong. Emojis. Little hearts. A voice memo where she called me my forever man. I couldn't even listen to the whole thing. Instead, I started printing. Every message. Every receipt. Every photo I could pull from her social media, her friends' pages, tagged locations, Airbnb listings. I built a timeline. Matched her words to her lies. The envelope was labeled truth, not for dramatic effect, but because that's all it contained. Just hard, undeniable, punch you in the throat truth. And I knew I wouldn't scream when she came home. I wouldn't throw things. I wouldn't cry in front of her. I would watch. I would listen. Because what a person says when they're caught tells you more than everything they said while you were still stupid enough to trust them. And now, standing in the doorway, with the envelope untouched and the suitcase zipped, Rowena asked the question I knew was coming. Are you seriously throwing all of this away over one stupid weekend? And all I could think was, one weekend didn't ruin us. It just showed me how long we'd already been over. You'd think it would have been the video that broke me. The one where she kissed him like they had history. Where her friends egged her on. Where she laughed with her head back like she didn't have a ring waiting at home. That wasn't it. That video made me angry, sure. But it didn't shatter me. What shattered me was the text that came 3 hours later. It came from her best friend, or rather, the woman I thought was her best friend. Her maid of honor. Lena. The one who helped plan the wedding menu. The one who walked through stationery samples with me when Rowena bailed last minute for work. The one who cried when she helped me pick out the engagement ring. Yeah, her. She sent me a message. Not on Instagram. Not even on text. It was an email. Subject line. You deserve more than silence. I opened it thinking maybe she was apologizing. Maybe she felt guilty for not stepping in. For not stopping Rowena when things got out of hand. I wasn't ready for what it actually was. Not even close. The email began with 2 words. I'm sorry. Then 4 paragraphs that blurred together into one long, sickening realization. This wasn't Rowena's first time. Not even her second. According to Lena, this thing with Micah, the hot tub guy, wasn't just a fling. It had roots. She met him 4 months ago at a friend's engagement party in Charlotte. Julian didn't get invited. Rowena said it was just girls. Turns out, it wasn't. Micah was there. And so was Lena. And Lena saw them kiss behind the venue after 2 mini glasses of wine. She didn't tell me then. She told herself it was probably a mistake, a one-time moment, and that Rowena would snap out of it. That's what friends do, right? Protect each other's mistakes. Hope they fix themselves. But then she saw the messages. Apparently, Rowena had left her phone unattended at brunch one morning, and Lena, curious and maybe a little suspicious, glanced over a few texts that weren't meant to be seen. She remembered one in particular. It read, I wish it were you picking me up from the airport Sunday. Not him. Lena didn't confront her. She didn't tell me. She let it go, because that's what people do when they don't want to blow up someone else's life. But after what happened this weekend, after what she witnessed, she couldn't stay quiet anymore. She attached screenshots, dates, times, messages between Rowena and Micah, hotel confirmations. One message that just said, he's so soft. I could cheat, confess, and he'd probably still make me breakfast. And that was the part that broke me. Because she was right. That's exactly the kind of man I was. I gave grace like it was candy. I let things go. I rationalized. I made excuses. I carried more weight in our relationship than she ever noticed. I paid for the ring myself. I took care of her dog when she went on solo retreats. I made her lunch every Tuesday because she always forgot to eat before her staff meetings. And still, I wasn't enough to be respected. I just sat there, reading Lena's email 3 times over while Rowena showered upstairs. She'd said she wanted to freshen up before we talked properly. She still thought there was a version of this where I'd forgive her, that I'd say some cheesy line like, let's work through it. She didn't know I'd already burned the bridge in my heart. Quietly, methodically, with no announcement or ceremony. She didn't know I'd already looked up the lease on our apartment and seen it was under my name only. That her name was never even added to the paperwork. That when I called the front office and explained the situation, the manager said 7 simple words. You have full legal authority to remove her. And so I did. While she was in the shower, I boxed her belongings. I folded her sweaters and placed them gently on top of her favorite boots. I took the framed photo of us from the bookshelf, flipped it over, and slid it into her suitcase. I left her wedding dress hanging in the closet, not out of mercy, but because she didn't deserve to carry a symbol of something she'd already destroyed. By the time she came back downstairs, towel in her hair, face clean of makeup and lies, I was already holding the front door open. "You're not throwing me out," she said, crossing her arms like she was in control. "I'm not," I said. "You already left." There's something cruel about memory, how it waits. How it sits quietly in the background until the moment you stop trusting the people in front of you. Then suddenly it hits rewind and plays everything back, but with new meaning. That's what happened to me that night. After Rowena stormed out with her suitcase, swearing she'd be back for her stuff later, I sat on the floor and remembered things. Small things. But this time, I saw them for what they really were. Like the night we went bowling with friends 3 months ago. My best man, Cody, kept cracking these inside jokes with Rowena. Private, weirdly flirty stuff. I remember they both laughed too hard when I gutterballed 3 times in a row. I thought it was just teasing. But now, I remember her brushing something off his shoulder. I remember Cody saying, "Careful, you're gonna make Jules jealous," and her saying, "He's too chill for that." At the time, I laughed too. Like a clown. But now those words echo differently. After Rowena left, I sent Lena a thank you message, brief, not emotional. I told her I appreciated the honesty, and I hoped she knew how much damage silence could do. She responded almost immediately and asked, "Do you want the rest?" That stopped me cold. I stared at the screen. The rest? I called her. Voice trembling, I asked what she meant. She hesitated. Then, Julian. Micah wasn't the only one. My stomach turned. I asked her to explain. Slowly, clearly. No assumptions. No gossip. Just facts. She told me that about 6 weeks ago, during Rowena's personal reset retreat in Tennessee, someone posted a group selfie on Facebook. Rowena wasn't in it, but Cody was. Cody, my best man. The guy who stood next to me when I picked out the suit rental colors. The guy who helped me move Rowena's piano into our apartment in the rain. I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because my body didn't know what else to do. That weird, broken laugh that lives somewhere between rage and grief. I asked Lena how long she suspected. She didn't answer directly. She just said, "There were signs. And if I noticed them, I know you must have too." And the thing is, I did. Like that one night, weeks ago, when I walked into the living room and the two of them were on the couch watching some documentary about wolves. They weren't doing anything inappropriate, technically, but they were sitting close. Too close. Their energy was different. It was like walking in on a conversation you were never meant to hear, even if no one was talking. When they noticed me, they pulled apart just a little too fast. I remember Rowena saying, "We were just watching something about loyalty and pack animals." Kinda ironic, huh? And laughing. Again, I had laughed too. Because I thought I had to. Because I thought trust meant ignoring small red flags and believing in the person you loved. That night, the night of the hot tub video, I couldn't sleep. Again, I started pulling up photos, old texts, group shots. I looked at Rowena's body language in every one. I looked at Cody's, and suddenly it was all there. The way he always stood slightly angled toward her, not me. The way she always messaged him back faster than anyone else. The way they had their songs from old playlists they made together back when they were just friends. Then I remembered something even worse. 6 years ago, when Rowena and I had just started dating, there was a moment when she told me that Cody used to have a little crush on her in college. She told me it was harmless, ancient history, barely worth mentioning. And I, being the trusting idiot I am, nodded and said, "Cool, no worries." Cool, no worries. Cody helped me pick out her engagement ring. Cody wrote a toast for the wedding. Cody was planning my bachelor party. And now, Cody was probably deleting messages off his phone as I sat there realizing that I had spent years standing next to someone who was smiling through a lie. Not just one, but layers of lies. The Rowena situation was betrayal. But the Cody thing? That was treason. It hit differently. Like something rotten had been sitting under my skin for months, and now the infection was finally reaching my bloodstream. I wasn't just mourning a relationship anymore. I was mourning a version of myself that had believed in these people. At 2 a.m., I did something I never thought I'd do. I took off my engagement ring, not in anger, not in some grand gesture. I just placed it on the kitchen counter and backed away like it was radioactive. Because it was. Because everything it stood for had already dissolved. And because somewhere out there, Rowena and Cody were probably rehearsing whatever lie they thought would sting the least when the time came to finally say it out loud. They didn't know I was already past that point. I didn't need a confession. I already had the truth. I didn't knock. I didn't text ahead. I just drove to Cody's apartment and walked up the stairs like I had a right to be there, because in my mind, I did. I wasn't going for drama. I wasn't even angry in the way people expect. I was something colder, more detached. My heart wasn't pounding. My hands weren't shaking. It was like I was observing myself from the outside, like a scientist watching a test subject enter a cage. He opened the door wearing a t-shirt from my bachelor party planning group chat, a stupid groom's wolf pack, design we thought was hilarious at the time. The irony was almost poetic. His eyes widened when he saw me, but not in fear. More like discomfort, like I'd caught him in the middle of hiding something under the rug. "Julian," he said, his voice light, forced casual. "Hey man, everything okay?" I didn't answer. I just looked at him. Not through him, at him. For the first time, I saw him clearly. The self-importance, the performative empathy, the smugness he disguised as confidence. It was all there, on full display now that I wasn't blinded by the label of best friend. He shifted uncomfortably, stepping back a little as if giving me space would erase the tension. "Want to come in?" he offered, scratching the back of his neck. "Kinda early for a drop-in." "I know," I said flatly. "But we're overdue for a talk." We sat on his couch. That same leather couch where we watched the Super Bowl every year. The same couch where Rowena once fell asleep after a movie night. And he joked that she was too comfortable here. At the time, I laughed. God, I was always laughing when I should have been listening. "I know about Tennessee," I said calmly. "And about the bachelorette weekend. And about you." His face froze, but only for a split second. Then he tried to act confused, defensive, like I'd somehow misunderstood the entire situation. "What are you even talking about?" "You know exactly what I'm talking about," I said, pulling my phone out and tapping through the folder I'd labeled rot. Screenshots. Timestamps. A video of him and Rowena getting out of an Uber together 2 weeks ago. Her hand still on his leg when the door opened. He didn't deny it. He didn't confess either. He just sat back and rubbed his face, muttering, "Damn it. Not I'm sorry. Not, it wasn't what it looked like. Just damn it." Like he was annoyed he got caught. "What hurts most," I told him, "is that I trusted you more than she did. If she told me she was going to New York alone, I checked in. If you said you had a late night at work, I didn't even blink. I always had your back. Always. And this," I gestured to the screen, to the proof, to the years of friendship that meant nothing. "This is what you did with it." He stared at the floor like it held the right excuse, then mumbled something that made me want to laugh out loud. "She said you two weren't doing great," he muttered. "She said things felt off." I blinked at him. "So instead of helping your best friend fix it, you helped yourself to what wasn't yours." He looked up then, and he smiled. A tiny, pathetic smile. Like I was being dramatic. Like I had no idea how the world worked. "Julian," he said, "sometimes people fall apart. You were always so passive. I don't think she felt like you'd fight for her." I stood up. Not because I was about to attack him, but because if I didn't, I might have drowned in the weight of that sentence. "I did fight for her," I said. "Every day, in every way that matters. I gave her grace, time, space, attention. I gave her more understanding than anyone deserves. But she didn't want a man who fought for her. She wanted a man she could cheat on without consequences. And you? You handed her the map and offered to drive." He didn't follow me to the door. He didn't call out my name. He just sat there in his stupid shirt with a dumb smirk, like he was still trying to convince himself that he'd somehow earned what he stole. As I walked back to my car, I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't broken. I was. But because there was nothing left inside me that tears could carry out. The ache was dry now, calcified. But as I turned the key in the ignition, I saw something that nearly made me reverse and go back upstairs. A silver bracelet. On my passenger seat. Rowena's. She must have left it during one of her late nights when she came back pretending she'd just gone on a walk to clear her head. She hadn't even noticed it was gone. Like everything else she was about to lose. 3 days. That's how long she stayed silent. I thought maybe she'd finally realized it was over. That I wasn't bluffing. That this wasn't one of those sleep on the couch and then cry it out in therapy type of breakups. But no, Rowena was never the type to surrender. She didn't believe in endings she didn't choose. So when I heard her key in the lock at 6:17 p.m. on a Wednesday, I wasn't surprised. What surprised me was how calm she looked. Not broken, not ashamed, composed, hair straightened, lip gloss perfect, dressed like she was coming from a business meeting, not crawling back into the ruins of what she set on fire. She walked in like she still lived there, like the world had paused in her absence and waited patiently for her to resume the role of center. She set her purse down gently and looked around the apartment, like she was checking to see if I'd changed anything yet. I hadn't. I didn't need to. The air had already changed. I figured we should talk face to face, she said. No, hey. No, sorry. Just strategy. I didn't say a word. I sat on the arm of the couch, arms crossed, watching her like she was a suspect in a case I'd already solved. She took a breath like she was about to deliver a rehearsed pitch, and she was. I've had time to think, she began, stepping slowly toward the kitchen counter, where the envelope labeled truth still sat, unopened. And I think we both made mistakes. I almost laughed. I really did. Not a bitter laugh, an exhausted one. The kind of laugh you let out when someone offers you a glass of water while your house is on fire. Do you want to open that before you start rewriting the script? I asked, nodding at the envelope. Or are we pretending that part of the story doesn't matter? She glanced at it, but didn't touch it. I already know what's in it, she said, her voice soft but manipulative. Micah, Cody, the party. I know how it looks. How it looks? I repeated. Is that what this is about? Optics. She held up her hands like she was surrendering, but her tone betrayed her. Julian, come on. I'm not proud of everything, but you have to understand how neglected I felt. You're a good man, but you were checked out. For months. I blinked slowly. That word, neglected, slammed into my chest like a battering ram. I almost couldn't process it. I planned our wedding alone, she went on, like she was doing a TED Talk on why infidelity was just a misunderstood form of communication. You withdrew emotionally. You got distant. I felt like I was dragging you toward the altar. I stood up, not out of anger, just to move. Because standing still in the face of that much hypocrisy makes you feel like you're drowning in syrup. You told me to step back? I said slowly, voice steady. You said I was making you anxious by overplanning. You said you needed breathing room. So I gave it to you. That wasn't distance. That was me respecting what you asked for. She looked away, then back. I didn't mean forever, Julian. You didn't mean a lot of things, I said. Did you mean it when you said yes to the proposal? Or was that just the part where I was useful again? She didn't answer, so I kept going. Did you mean it when you told your friends I was safe? When you said you could cheat on me, and I'd still forgive you? Was that supposed to be flattering? Her lips pressed into a thin line. People say stupid things when they drink. You weren't drunk every time. And Cody? Were you drunk then too? Or just bored? She crossed her arms, like I'd offended her by dragging his name into it. Cody's not what you think. No, I said. He's exactly what I think. And so are you. The silence after that was suffocating. She stared at me, like she was still trying to gauge if this was salvageable, like there was some angle she hadn't played yet. Then she tried the oldest one in the book. You really want to throw away 6 years over a couple mistakes? She asked, almost a whisper now. I stepped closer, just enough to let her see the difference in me. The man who had once bent over backwards to keep her happy now stood upright, still unmoved. I didn't throw anything away, I said. You did. Repeatedly. You threw away trust, loyalty, honesty. You threw me away while I was still in the room. She looked down. Finally. Like her gaze couldn't survive in the truth's light anymore. But even then, she tried to twist the knife one last time. You'll regret this, she murmured. You think you're strong now, but one day you'll look back and realize you let go of someone who really loved you. I took a breath, not to yell, just to exhale everything she no longer had power over. No, I said, one day you'll look back and realize you watched someone who really loved you walk away, and you smiled while doing it. That was the end. She left, for real this time. And as the door clicked shut behind her, I looked at the envelope still resting on the counter. Unopened, still heavy, just like everything else she left behind. I didn't expect the fallout to spread so fast. For some reason, I thought ending the engagement meant the chaos would die with it. Like turning off a switch would kill the entire current. I was wrong. Very wrong. People didn't just move on. They reacted. They took sides. And some of them didn't pick mine. The first text came from her mother. Not mine, hers. Julian, I'm shocked and heartbroken. Rowena told us everything. We thought better of you. I had to read it twice. Shocked and heartbroken? At me? 10 minutes later, one of Rowena's cousins messaged me on Facebook. Hey, just wanted you to know, I heard what happened. Everyone's saying you blew things out of proportion. Even if she made mistakes, walking away like that before the wedding? That's cruel. Cruel. That word sat in my chest like a cinder block. I wanted to scream. To post everything. The videos, the screenshots, the messages. I wanted to paste it all across social media and let people choke on the truth. But I didn't. Because the moment you weaponize the truth to hurt, it becomes something else. And I wasn't going to sink into the same swamp Rowena lived in. Instead, I called my brother. He'd always been the rational one. He listened to everything without interrupting. The cheating, the betrayal, the gaslighting, the part where her own maid of honor turned whistleblower. When I was done, he was silent for a moment, and then he said something I didn't expect. You're not mad enough. It caught me off guard. I asked him what he meant. You're talking like a guy who got scammed on a phone bill, he said. Not like someone who just had his life nuked. You know it's okay to be furious, right? I wasn't sure it was. Anger never came easy for me. I'd been conditioned to keep things calm, neat, manageable. Anger made people uncomfortable, and I'd spent my whole life trying not to make anyone uncomfortable, including the woman who cheated on me in 2 states and still tried to pin it on my emotional distance. But that conversation unlocked something. A dam cracked. The second crack came 2 days later when I got a phone call from the venue coordinator. Just confirming the guest list revisions, she said brightly. Rowena mentioned the change in groom name, but I still had your contact info listed for backup. I blinked, stunned. The change in what? She paused. Oh, I'd assumed you knew. She's still proceeding with the date, but she asked to update the reservation under a different couple's name. Said there was a last-minute personal switch. I couldn't speak for a full 5 seconds. She wasn't canceling the wedding. She was replacing me. No explanation. No grace period. Just a substitution. Like I was a misprinted name on a restaurant reservation. I ended the call quickly and sat in silence for a long time. Everything was spinning, but not fast, slow, surreal. I felt like I was watching my own life get repurposed in front of me. The ceremony I helped pay for. The flower arrangements I picked. The music I chose. All being rebranded into someone else's love story. Micah? Cody? Someone else entirely? I didn't care. Not really. Because the point wasn't who she stood next to now. It was what that moment revealed. She'd always been planning for a life I wasn't in. I was just the placeholder. The dress rehearsal. The understudy for someone she hadn't even cast yet. Later that night, I got another message. This time, from a number I didn't recognize. Hey, I don't know if this is weird, but I used to date Rowena. Years ago, I saw what happened through mutual friends. You don't know me, but I thought you should know. She did the same thing to me. Almost the exact same way. I stared at that message for a long time, letting its implications settle into my chest. She hadn't changed. Not for me. Not for anyone. Her brand of betrayal was just well practiced. He sent a few more details. Times. Places. Patterns. His story was different in the players, but not in the structure. It was always the same. Adoration, slow withdrawal, excuses, deflection, and then someone else. He, too, had walked away without burning it all down. He, too, had swallowed his rage. But there was something oddly comforting in that shared experience, like I wasn't crazy, like I wasn't the first man to feel like he'd been ghosted in plain sight. By the end of that night, I realized something sharp and horrifying. The wedding hadn't been about us in a long time. It was about optics, appearances, a stage for Rowena to be worshipped by a room full of people who hadn't looked closely enough. And I was just the groom in the background, blurry, smiling, and silent. Well, not anymore. I didn't go to the wedding. There was a moment when I considered it, not to cause a scene, but to stand outside the venue like a ghost, just to see what she'd replaced me with. But that moment passed quickly, because the truth is, Rowena's new future wasn't my business anymore. That was the gift she didn't realize she gave me, freedom. Instead of showing up in bitterness, I took that day, what would have been our wedding day, and went hiking. Alone. No phone service. No distractions. Just air, trees, wind, and silence that didn't demand anything from me. I packed a small thermos of coffee and sat at the top of a ridge that overlooked the valley below. It was quiet, beautiful. I watched the sun climb across the horizon and thought about how much of my life had been spent trying to be enough for people who never truly saw me. And not just Rowena. That pattern went deeper, into friendships, family, teachers, coworkers. Always bending, always minimizing, always explaining. But that morning, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like a backup plan or a discarded option. I felt still, present, whole, in a way I didn't realize I'd been missing for years. I stayed up there for hours. When I got back to the car, I had a voicemail from Lena, just a simple message saying, "You deserve better. I hope you're doing okay." I smiled, genuinely, for the first time in weeks. Over the next few days, I started doing things I used to enjoy before Rowena became the center of my universe. I went back to the local book club I used to attend before she called it nerdy. I started cooking for pleasure again, not just to impress. I took long walks without needing a destination. One afternoon, I passed by a new cafe in town, soft jazz spilling out onto the sidewalk. I went in on a whim and ordered something I hadn't had in years, a lavender latte. I used to love those. She hated the smell, so I stopped drinking them. While waiting for my order, I struck up a conversation with the woman behind me in line. Her name was Mara, and she made a joke about the barista spelling her name wrong every time. We laughed. It wasn't flirtatious. It wasn't romantic. It was human. And it reminded me that the world was still full of people who hadn't hurt me. That joy could still exist in small, unplanned moments. We sat and talked for 20 minutes before she left. No numbers exchanged. No promises. Just a nice connection. But as she walked away, I realized something profound. I wasn't hoping she'd turn back. I wasn't holding my breath. I wasn't waiting. I was content. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was chasing something or proving something. I wasn't trying to fix anyone or apologize for who I was. I was just me. That night, I finally threw away the envelope. The one labeled truth. Not because the truth didn't matter, but because I didn't need to carry it anymore. It had done its job. It had freed me. Let Rowena rewrite her story however she wanted. Let the guests at her wedding pretend it was always meant to be. Let Cody fade into whatever delusion he told himself at night. I had my truth. I had my peace. And in losing her, I found the one person I'd neglected for too long. Myself.